My name is Josée Lindsay, and I'm the author of Superspark. What if I told you that you could change the world? I know, that's a crazy statement, but hear me out. I know what you're thinking. I'm just a kid. I'm in grade 3 or 4 or 6, whatever grade you're in. There's no way that I can change the world. I'm only one person. I'm not even an adult yet. But I think that there's one of the greatest superpowers that you have that you can use today, and that's the superpower of being kind. So first I'll read the page in Superspark that has to do with love, kindness, and compassion, and then I'll explain what I mean after we read the page together. So here we go. We are all on this planet together. The key to getting along despite the stormy weather is to realize that we are all one, and that love belongs to everyone. There is no such thing as an enemy, since we are all made of the same energy. The shell we wear on the outside is different, as unique as our fingerprint. Big, small, black, white, brown, short, and tall. Let's embrace our differences, no matter the appearances. We are all sisters and brothers. Great joy comes from reaching out to others. So I'll break down a few concepts of the page that I just read. Basically, how I think of it is that love and oneness is natural to us. I believe that we're born that way, that we're born accepting, loving, compassionate, and the feeling of oneness and that we're all together is instinctive, intuitive, and it is who we are. I believe that hate is taught. For somebody to hate another, I believe, is a mental concept that needs to be taught to somebody. For example, I believe that somebody needs to teach a human that a race is not as good as theirs, or a religion that is different than theirs is not good, and that we should hate all those people, or who somebody chooses to love is not acceptable or bad, and people should judge those people. These are all concepts that somebody in their family or in their community, or they would have had to hear this over and over, and they were taught to separate and to hate another person. And sometimes those things can be on a smaller scale, like, for example, if you're at school and there's somebody that you judge because they dress differently, or they eat weird foods, or they don't have the latest clothes, or that there's something different about them, and then you can start making fun of them and you think that that's okay because they're different. It is through the mind and thoughts that we have that separate us from each other. It is the heart that connects us. So if you were to look more at people through your heart, have compassion and understanding that they're human, you're human, they might be going through some difficult times, and to accept each other for who we are, accept our differences. It's okay to observe that somebody is different. We can't be colorblind or not notice differences. The key is to see those differences, accept those differences, and even try to understand other people. For example, if you have somebody in your class from another country, instead of making fun of how they talk or their accent or different clothes and different lunches, sometimes it's good to ask them their experiences, ask them about the food that they're eating or how they dress, out of like a curiosity as opposed to a judgment. And speaking of differences, I like to think that we're going for a goal of harmony as opposed to peace. Because sometimes when we think of peace, we think that everything is great, everybody gets along, everybody thinks the same ideas, everybody's convinced themselves of the same one plan and one way of living, and then there's peace in your family, in your community, in the world. But if you think about harmony, that's, I think, what we're striving more in the world, in your community, in your class, that you observe all of the differences and that together you know that it's the differences that makes us greater. Sort of like if you picture an orchestra is like a big band, and there's could be 100 different instruments that come together to make a beautiful sound, but you need those different instruments like a violin, like a clarinet, like the drum section, like a bunch of instruments, and together it makes a beautiful sound. That is harmony. So if you think of people like an orchestra, you want the differences, you want to see them, and you want to accept them and think of creating harmony. So if we go back to my idea at the beginning of the video that you can change the world, this is what I think is the most important thing. And how do you do that? Well, it starts with every individual if you want harmony in the world. Often we think of an organization like the UN or governments or somebody else will magically come and save us and make the world a kinder, peaceful place. The way I see it is I don't think that that's possible for somebody from the outside to come and make everybody here peaceful and in harmony. Where harmony comes from is each individual that makes up the community, that makes up the country, that makes up the world is made up of 8 billion individuals. And it really will take absolutely every single person to create that peace and harmony that we want. And if we need every individual, then that means you're needed. If we want to make a change in the world, I'm needed and everybody's needed at every age. Peace and harmony starts from within. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to be kind to people in your family, kind to people at school, kind to people in your community. It's a different way of looking at things. We all have a responsibility to be kind in our little corners of the world. So the main question to ask yourself is this: am I being kind? And if you really ponder that and think about that and you're like, I hadn't really thought about that. It's a great question to start with. And if we all start with that question, you can make great improvements. So if you think about your day, you start off probably in your family. How do you treat your parents? How do you treat your siblings? How do you treat your bus driver? How do you treat your teachers, fellow classmates, and everybody that you meet that day? That's a really important part to start with, because if everybody was kind to the people that they met that day, the world would change very quickly. And here are some really simple examples, especially if you're at school. It's all the little things that add up. And remember, if you're not the only one being kind and everybody is being kind at the same time every day, your whole experience will change very quickly. It can be smiling at somebody, having lunch with somebody that's having lunch by themselves, opening the door for somebody. If you're young and, you're getting ready to go outside, especially here, we have winter up in Canada, and somebody's missing a mitt or a toque, and instead of just running out to the yard and you go for your recess, help them look for theirs. One thing that's really important, I have boys, and one of my sons that was bullied was really struggling with trying to play soccer. So if you're playing sports in the schoolyard, you can change somebody's life by letting them play with you. My son Tyler had a terrible time. Nobody would let him play soccer. They would make fun of him. If they let him play, they would hurt him, kick him, things like that. So little things like letting somebody play with you, even if they're not the best, and you know that you're not going to win a soccer game, it doesn't matter. Inclusivity, being kind to everybody in the schoolyard is what matters most. Remember that your thoughts, your words, and your actions matter. You have the power to bring somebody up, and you also have the power to bring somebody down. So make sure to use that power very wisely. And something to add with small acts of kindness is that it's almost contagious when somebody sees somebody else being kind to somebody else. Research says that For every act of kindness, when it's observed, up to 5 other people will then do an act of kindness themselves. And then anybody observing somebody doing that, 5 people observing them will do an act of kindness. So it spreads very quickly, and it's very powerful. And remember that those little actions that you're doing add up. And if tomorrow morning, 8 billion of us woke up with the goal that day to just be kind to the people that we met, the entire world would change, and it would change overnight. It will take all of us to make a difference, and you're no exception. We need every single little superhero out there being kind and treating everybody the way that they want to be treated. And one last thing that I wanted to show you is this. Our planet. This is a picture of our planet in space. So for context, it's good to remember that as you're looking at these pictures, there are no lines defining countries. There's nothing separating the planet. It's just one rock. And that rock is going through outer space at speeds that we can't even wrap our minds around. So essentially, we're all earthlings on this rock, all together. Let's treat each other like we are all one. Let's be kinder and nicer to each other. And I believe that you are the generation that will not end wars, but you're the generation that will end the concept of war. Let's all be kinder and more compassionate and understanding in all of our corners of the world, and we will see this planet change very quickly. Much love. Thank you.